Hello, and welcome back to Ace Ideas. I'm JAKQ, and you may have noticed my outfit today. This is the most feminine that I've ever looked when vlogging for Ace Ideas, and there are two reasons for this. One, since it's been so long since I've made a video for you, you haven't seen a lot of the changes that have happened in my gender expression and my gender identity over the last couple of years. And looking like this is not something that I would have done when I was 20 and 21, when I was recording these videos regularly. The other reason, and the more important reason why I chose to go femme for this video in particular, is because it's pertinent to what I want to talk about this week. And the topic I want to talk about today is the relationship that we have as asexuals with the LGBTQ community and with heteronormativity. This topic is very, very deeply personal to me, and so I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory as to why that is. I know I've talked about a little bit of my coming out and self-discovery experiences in my Discovering Asexuals video and in the questionnaire that we did way back when, but I was going to sort of reiterate some things. When I was a teenager, I had some understanding of the LGBT community, but the knowledge that I had was very narrow, and the experiences that I had heard growing up all fit this very neat mold of queer experience, namely that you knew who you were from the time you were a young kid, and it was something that was pretty innate and it didn't really change, and the only time people, came out later in life was out of denial or just, out of not feeling safe in the culture of homophobia that they had grown up in. I had never heard of any people whose identities actually changed, or they really questioned themselves. But when I got to college, and I wasn't so sure of who I was encouraged to go to the meetings of the LGBTQ Alliance and to the Queer Resource Center and sort of, tell some of the people there what I was going through. And so I did. And I was met with overwhelming support. And it was there that I learned about the sheer vastness that is human sexuality and human gender, and that it is not only acceptable but totally encouraged to question yourself, or that's okay to not be sure of who you are, and that sometimes people need to really kind of do some self-discovery, soul-searching, exploration, experimentation to figure out who they are. And it was in that community where I finally felt comfortable shedding some of that straightness that I had and that cisness that I had learned growing up, and really kind of sitting back and figuring out who I am and how I want to live my life and form relationships. And it was there that I discovered asexuality. It was there that I discovered polyamory. It was there that I discovered gender fluidity and fluidity of sexuality in general. And I would not have gotten that anywhere else. I wouldn't have gotten from the heteronormative community, the heteronormative world at large, I wouldn't have gotten those messages that to explore and figure things out and ask questions. It was just, you know who you are. You should know. And I didn't. So I owe a great deal of personal debt to the LGBTQ community for not only allowing but encouraging me to explore and ask questions and figure things out and step back and all of these amazing things. And so I really owe them a lot. And that's why this topic is so personal to me. And that's why it really upsets me when I see people on the other side saying that we as asexuals don't belong there in and of ourselves. Like, we don't belong there because of our asexuality. We only belong there if we're homoromantic, biromantic, whatever. And that is denying a lot of people a space and a voice to explore and encourage and ask questions. But a lot of these posts are talking about heteronormative asexuals specifically, calling them straight. And I don't identify as heteroromantic right now, but that was the first thing I came out as. When I first discovered asexuality, I came out as heteroromantic and asexual. Since then, I've moved away from that label and moved to panromantic, but it took me a good while to really, and some more, questioning and figuring things out for me to even reach that conclusion. But if I had stopped at heteroromantic asexual and been in a less accepting environment, I would have been called straight and told that I didn't belong there. And this is some of the arguments that I've seen on Avon popping up more recently again. The post that I'm thinking about in particular that really started me thinking about this was a post, the A in the LGBTQ A plus acronym. And they said that A historically stood for ally, not asexual, to have a space for closeted people to be a part of the community. It wasn't for actual straight allies because they're straight and what's the point? But it was for closeted people and not for us. And saying something like how the LGBT community is not a club for people who don't fit into society. It was formed for and by people who experienced systematic homophobia and transphobia. And anything that we go through as aces doesn't come anywhere close to that, to see our experience as being anything but completely different. And I have a lot of grievances with this. Seeing things like this really upsets me because I had such a personal stake in it. Like I said, if it weren't for the LGBT community, I wouldn't be where I am today doing what I'm doing if it weren't for that initial acceptance by the community and being told that it was okay to ask questions and figure things out. If I had just been told I was straight from the get-go, then that would have caused so many problems for me down the road. A lot of these arguments that I see come from oversimplification or misunderstandings as to what the experiences of asexuals are. I keep seeing something over and over again about how the only struggles that asexuals go through, that asexuals specifically go through, that people of like their matching sexual orientations don't, is it's strictly interpersonal in relationships. And that, and I quote, "Not wanting to date you is not discrimination or oppression, and your family being worried that people won't want to date you is simply familial concern." Now, what the struggles that aces and aromantics go through goes way deeper than just people not wanting to date us. We grow up in a society feeding us this idea that all relationships look a certain way. There is just, heteronormativity tells us that there is, just one or even just like a few narrow ways to live your life and have relationships, and that doesn't work for everybody. And it tells us that everybody wants sex, and people who don't are in denial. People, or there's something wrong with them. And it tells us that everybody wants romance, and romance must look a certain way in order to be legitimized by society at large. Both of these things are A, completely false, and B, really harm asexuals and aromantics, which is why I try so hard to fight compulsory sexuality, and why I really don't like the idea of amatonormativity and the relationship escalator being the one true way to have relationships. And I feel like that's something that the LGBT community should be able to understand and relate to, because they have the world telling them over and over that who they are and how they want to love is either a bad thing or not a thing at all. And they also have to go through so much pressure to live their life a certain way, when the way that they want to live their life and have their relationships completely defies that tradition. And it's no different for aces. And that's why I think that there is way more commonality between the ace community and the LGBT community at large than some people like to say there is. And it's not about who has it worse. It doesn't matter whether you can be threatened with physical violence for being who you are, or if you're just constantly told that who you are doesn't exist and that it's not a real thing, and that you have to change in order to fit other people's expectations. It doesn't matter. It's still bad. It's still not okay. It's something that we should be uniting to fight against. And to go and tell asexuals that what we go through and everything is trivial really grinds my gears. And it's that really wanted me to make this video and to share my experiences. We are who we are. Our relationships are not normative. They are not traditional. If somebody tells you that they are struggling because of a thing, you listen to them. If enough people tell you you're struggling with the same thing, then that should provide at least some form of evidence that what they're going through is more pervasive than you're letting on. And there are so many aces, heteroromantic or otherwise, who come to Avon or to other places with the same themes going on. People telling them that they're broken, or that there's something wrong with them, or that they have to change by, entering situations that they really don't want to enter. And that stuff can really damage people after a while. It certainly didn't help me growing up. And it was having that experience in the LGBTQ community that really helped set the stage for me to live life on my terms, finally. And I would not want to see another person have to go through that just because they haven't experienced enough systematic oppression or homophobia. That shouldn't be the be-all, end-all. the be-all end-all is, to me at least, the sheer vastness and diversity of human sexuality and gender, that things aren't always set in stone, that there's enough crap going around if you don't fit into this narrow box of heteronormativity, that I wouldn't want to deny a space to anybody who feels that they can't or don't want to live up to that standard. Because that standard ultimately hurts us all. And for us to be fighting amongst ourselves about who it hurts more doesn't feel productive to me. What feels productive is being able to unite around not fitting this mold of heteronormative relationships. And that should be more inclusive, not less. And I wouldn't want to deny anybody the experience of finding a community that accepts them and that tells them that who they are is okay and that they can live and love on their own terms without having to fit society's narrow mold of what is expected of relationships and of just living. There's so much more to the LGBT community than just the systemic violence and everything that they're going to encounter. And that's why talking about non-traditional relationships and everything and orientations that don't necessarily fit into these narrow boxes, that's why it's important, because these people exist. These people often struggle a lot to realize who they are in a world that tells them they don't exist. And after a while, that stuff eats at you. And I would think that the LGBTQ community at large would understand that. But I guess not everybody does. And I'm making this right now to try and change that. To tell the people who don't necessarily fit into a narrow box of straight or gay that it's okay to be who you are, that it's okay to ask questions, that it's okay to not figure things out for a while, it's okay to experiment, it's okay to try things, and most importantly, it's okay to be who you are and live and love on your terms. I wouldn't deny anybody that experience. And that is the message I'm trying to send with this video. And with that, I'm going to sign off for this week. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. I hope that it really spoke to you. If you can relate to any of this at all, please send us a message, leave us a comment, something. Share your stories if you feel okay to share your stories. I would love to hear them. And I appreciate anyone who watches this video and really listens. Thank you. And hopefully I'll see you later at some point with another video. But until then, this is JAKQ signing off.